and today we are going to be making a fossil. It is from this book, Maker Lab, and I'm going to include the directions, written directions from the lab as well. And so you are going to get a kit and then pick a shell to make your fossil with. So you're also going to get plaster of Paris and modeling clay. You will need some water and a bowl. So in the book, it says to do 1 cup of plaster of Paris and 1 cup of water, but I found that was way too much water and way too much plaster of Paris, really. So I'm going to start with 1/3 of a cup of the plaster of Paris, and whatever you're going to mix it in is going to be ruined. So you want to maybe mix it in a bowl that you don't care about or a cup that you don't care about. So I've got 1/3 of a cup, and I'm going to do a little bit less than 1/3 a cup of water to mix in there, and you're going to want it to be the consistency of like a milkshake, like kind of a thick milkshake. So I'm mixing it up here. And I'm going to give you a bag with like a little more than a cup, so you have a little bit of leeway. So you're just going to mix that up until it's a kind of a thick milkshake consistency. I almost feel like I need a little more, but since this is just a display, I'm gonna leave it like that. Okay. Then, once you're done mixing that up, you're going to get your modeling clay and you're going to warm it up with your hands. It's going to be very hard at first and hard to work with. You're going to warm it up and you're going to put it at the bottom of your bowl and cover the bottom of the bowls, and it's got to be thick enough that you're going to be able to make an impression with your shell. So if you have a bumpier shell, it might need to be thicker. I've got kind of a flat shell. I'm going to use this clam. And then you're going to make an impression. You're going to push the bottom of that shell, the ridgy part, not the inside of the shell, the outside of the shell, into the clay. All right? That did not make a good impression, and I broke the shell, so hopefully that does not happen to you. Let's try this again. Okay, now I'm going to use this mussel, which is what I did my sample one with anyway, so I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. So you're going to get that in there. I'm pressing it in to make a good impression in the modeling clay. Then when you pour the plaster of Paris in, it's going to go inside that impression and make the fossil. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Take the shell out, and you have an impression of the shell in your modeling clay, and then you're going to pour the plaster of Paris in. You're going to cover the impression that the shell made, and then cover the top too. So I have now buried my modeling clay. I don't think you can see that, but the shell is covered, and then there's a layer over the top of the modeling clay. And then you're gonna leave that until it dries. I did it and it dried overnight, so it took less than 12 hours. I'm just gonna get a little bit more out of this. All right, so wait 12 hours. And then in my bowl, I kind of just pushed the bowl in and it popped out. So I popped the plaster of Paris out, and I've taken the clay out, but this was all covered with clay. So my brown clay was here. This is the trickiest part. Then you have to pick the clay out to see the impression that the fossil is. I used the back of my spoon, and sometimes big pieces came out, and sometimes only little pieces came out. And you definitely want to be very careful because the plaster of Paris, though it is solid, it's not super strong. So if you really are stabbing at it with a knife or something, you're going to make a hole in it. So you just want to carefully take the clay, whatever color modeling clay you get, out so you can reveal your fossil. Now this, I made a very thick layer, so the fossil is underneath here, the impression of the shell, but I have a lot of extra stuff. So you could kind of break that off if you wanted to. On the picture that the book gives you, it really is much higher. The relief of the fossil is higher. And I gave a lot bumpier shells to use for you guys to use, so hopefully that will happen for you. I mean, you might have to play around with it a little bit. The modeling clay does not dry, so you can do that over and over, and I should give you enough plaster Paris that you could probably do a couple projects of this. And then once this is totally dry, I haven't had a chance to do it because I just made this last night, you're just gonna paint that, and I would paint it earthy kind of colors, and then you will have your fossilized shell. And that's it. It's a pretty easy project, but pretty fun and cool, and it kind of mimics the way a real fossil is made. So have a great time making that, and maybe you could take a picture and show us so that we can see all the fossils that people were able to create for Maker's Day.